His eyes are open. They've been open for 6 hours. He cannot close them anymore. The muscles that control his eyelids stopped responding 3 days ago. Elena, his wife, tapes them shut at night so they don't dry out. But even behind the tape, he's awake. Always awake. Michael Vianello has not truly slept in 91 days. His brain has forgotten how. You think you know what insomnia feels like. A bad night, a rough morning, you drink coffee, you push through. Insomnia is inconvenient. For Michael, insomnia is not a symptom. It's an execution in slow motion. And the worst part is not the sleepiness. The worst part is that he watched his father die this exact way. This is Diagnosis Glitch. "14 months before the tape and the frozen eyelids, Michael Vianello was the man everyone wanted to be. 52 years old, third-generation Italian-American, 3 restaurants in Philadelphia, all profitable, married to Elena for 26 years, 2 daughters, Isabella, 23, and Maria, 21. Every Sunday night without exception, Michael cooked dinner for the entire family. His grandmother's recipes, the red sauce that took 6 hours because shortcuts kill flavor. The pasta rolled by hand because the machine murdered the texture. Sunday dinner was sacred. Elena used to say you could set your watch to it. Michael at the stove by noon, family arriving by 5, wine by 6. Leftovers distributed by 9. And every Sunday night, after the last guest left, Michael would collapse into his armchair, turn on the game, and fall asleep within 5 minutes. 8 hours, every night. Like his body had an off switch. Elena joked he could sleep through an earthquake. Remember that. Remember who he was before, because you're about to watch that man disappear. The first warning came at his nephew's wedding. Michael stood at the head table, champagne glass raised, giving a toast. Mid-sentence, he forgot his nephew's name. Not blanked for a second, forgot. The words simply vanished from his brain like someone had deleted it. He covered with a joke. The room laughed, but Elena saw his face behind the smile. She saw the terror. That night, Michael lay awake until 2 a.m., first time in years. He told himself it was the champagne. He almost believed it. Week 2, 5 hours of sleep instead of 8. He blamed the restaurant, staff problems, inventory issues, normal stress. Week 4, 4 hours, sometimes 3. His doctor ran blood work, thyroid, blood pressure, everything normal. You're a business owner in your 50s, the doctor said. Stress catches up. Try melatonin. Michael tried melatonin, the valerian root, the meditation apps, then white noise machines, then prescription Ambien, then Lunesta, then a combination of sedatives that should have dropped a horse. Nothing worked. His eyes would close, but behind them nothing happened. No drift, no fade, no softening of thought, just darkness with full awareness. Like staring at the back of your eyelids forever. Here's what every doctor missed. Chronic insomnia responds to medication. That's how insomnia works. If every drug on the market fails, if a sedative cocktail that would knock out a linebacker does nothing, you're not looking at insomnia. You're looking at hardware failure. By week 8, Michael was averaging 90 minutes per night. Fragmented, shallow, never deep. He started making mistakes at work. Forgetting orders, calling employees by wrong names. One afternoon, he drove past his own restaurant 3 times before recognizing it. Elena begged him to see a specialist. The sleep doctor hooked him up to monitors and watched him fail to sleep all night. His brain waves showed something strange. Every time he approached sleep, his thalamus fired a burst of activity that yanked him back awake. The doctor had never seen anything like it. Diagnosis: chronic insomnia with probable anxiety disorder. They added trazodone to the cocktail. It did nothing. At one appointment, the psychiatrist paused. Any family history of neurological disease, dementia, anything hereditary I should know about? Michael froze. He thought of his father. He thought of his cousins in Italy. He thought of a conversation his mother made him promise never to repeat. No, he said, nothing. That was the door that could have saved him. He chose not to open it. Here's what Michael never told anyone. His father, Antonio, died in 1991. Michael was 19. It started the same way. Trouble sleeping, forgetting words. Antonio was 51. the same age Michael was when his symptoms began. Doctor called it stress, then depression, then early onset Alzheimer's. Every diagnosis was wrong. Antonio deteriorated over 16 months. By the end, he could not close his eyes. Literally, the muscles stopped responding. He would lie in bed, eyes fixed open, pupils huge, heart racing, drenched in sweat, awake, always awake. Michael was holding his father's hand when he died. Antonio was staring at the ceiling. He never blinked. The family buried him and buried the memory. They called it a nervous breakdown, something private, something not to be discussed. But Michael's grandfather had died the same way, and his great uncle, and 2 cousins in Italy the family only whispered about. At 19, Michael told himself it was a coincidence. Genetics was barely understood. Nobody used the word hereditary because nobody wanted to. At 52, sweating through his sheets at 3 a.m., he could not pretend anymore. He called his cousin Marco in Venice, the one who had traced the family history, the one who had taken the test. Marco answered on the first ring, like he had been waiting. "I was hoping you would never call." There's a reason the family stopped sleeping, and there's a reason Michael's doctors never found out. To diagnose what Michael had, you need a PET scan of the thalamus, not an MRI, not a CT scan, a specific kind of nuclear imaging that most hospitals do not even offer. A test that no doctor would order unless they already suspected something almost no doctor has ever seen. The neurologist who finally ordered it was the 3rd specialist Michael visited. She had read about this disease once in a case study from 1986. A single Italian family, a genetic curse passed from parent to child for centuries. The images came back showing darkness where there should have been light, holes where there should have been activity. Michael's thalamus was being eaten from the inside. She'd sat with Michael and Elena for a long time before speaking. There is a name for what you have. Fatal Familial Insomnia. Here's what was killing him, and here's why you should care. Deep in the center of your brain sits a structure called the thalamus. Think of it as a light switch. When you start to drift off at night, your thalamus dims everything down. It filters out the noise. It tells your consciousness to shut up so your body can repair itself. Without your thalamus, sleep is biologically impossible. Not difficult, impossible. Michael's thalamus was being destroyed, not by a virus, not by bacteria, by his own proteins. You've heard of mad cow disease? Same family of diseases, same mechanism. Proteins that fold the wrong way then convince other proteins to fold wrong too. A chain reaction that cannot be stopped. A fire that spreads molecule by molecule. The difference is that Michael did not catch this. He inherited it. A single mutation in a single gene. If your parent carries it, you have a 50% chance of inheriting it. If you inherit it, you have a 100% chance of developing symptoms. If you develop symptoms, you have a 0% chance of survival. Since the disease was identified in 1986, fewer than 70 families worldwide have been confirmed to carry the gene. Fewer than 300 documented cases total. Every single one has died. There is no treatment, no surgery, no drug, no clinical trial with promising results. Nothing. Once the folding begins, it does not stop until you do. Month 4, Michael stopped sleeping entirely. Not mostly, entirely. Sleep studies showed his brain refused to enter any stage of sleep. Not REM, not deep sleep, not even the lightest doze. His thalamus was too damaged to initiate the process. Do you know what happens when you stop sleeping? Your brain cannot clear toxins. It cannot consolidate memories. It cannot regulate emotions. Go without sleep for 3 days and you will hallucinate. Go without for a week and you will experience psychosis indistinguishable from schizophrenia. Michael went without for months. One night, Elena woke at 3 a.m. to find Michael in the kitchen. He was setting the table for 8. "They'll be here soon," he said. "Who?" "Everyone. Dad, Grandma, the cousins from Venice. They called and said they're coming for Sunday dinner." Elena looked at the table. Michael had set it with his grandmother's china, the plates they only used for funerals. His father had been dead for 33 years. She guided him back to bed. He went without resistance, still talking about the sauce he needed to start. This became normal. Every night, a different visitor who was not there. Different conversations with people who had been dead for decades. Elena learned to nod along, learned not to cry until he looked away. Then came the Sunday dinner Michael tried to host while awake. He stood at the stove, spatula in hand, his mother's sauce. 6 hours, 1,000 repetitions. He had made this recipe since he was 12 years old. He stood there for 20 minutes, staring at the pot, unable to remember what came next. Maria finished the sauce. Nobody talked about it. After dinner, Michael gathered his family in the living room. Elena wanted to wait. Wait until what? Until he could not speak. Michael had already lost words. Some days he could not say what he meant, but that night he found enough. There's something I should have told you a long time ago. He told them everything. The gene, the inheritance pattern, the 50% coins that had been flipping in his family for generations. Isabella did the math immediately. Then we might have it too. Yes. Can we get it tested? Yes. But understand there is no cure. If you test positive, you spend the rest of your life knowing how you'll die. Some people prefer to know. Others prefer the uncertainty. There is no right answer. Maria stared at her hands, checking for tremors that might never come. Dad, she asked quietly, what would you have done? Michael was silent for a long time. I never took the test. I was too afraid. I spent 30 years pretending this was not real. And now I think about all the time I wasted being afraid of a truth I was going to face anyway. By month 7, Michael stopped recognizing Elena. Some hours he knew exactly who she was. They talked about the girls, about the restaurants, about their wedding in that little church in South Philly with the broken air conditioning. Other hours he asked why there was a stranger in his house. The proteins had spread from his thalamus into his cortex. His memories were fragmenting like old film disintegrating frame by frame. Month 8, he stopped speaking in sentences. Words came out scrambled, syllables in the wrong order. He would try to say, I love you, and what emerged was noise, meaning shattered somewhere between thought and mouth. Month 9, he stopped walking, then sitting, then swallowing. They moved him to a hospital bed in the living room, feeding tube, heart monitors, machines doing what his body could no longer do. His eyes were still open. They could not close on their own anymore. Elena applied drops every hour to keep them moist. She sat with him every night. She told him about the girls, about the restaurant, about their first date at that terrible movie neither of them remembers. She did not know if he could hear. She talked anyway. One night near the end, she was telling him about the first Sunday dinner he ever cooked for her. The sauce was too salty. The pasta was overcooked. She ate 3 servings anyway because she loved him too much to care. His hand moved, just barely, the pressure around her fingers so faint she almost missed it. He was still in there, somewhere, trapped behind eyes that could not close and a brain that had forgotten how to rest. At 4:12 a.m., 3 days later, Michael Vianello died. His eyes were open. Elena closed them herself. 6 months after the funeral, Isabella took the test. Positive. She carries the gene, the same mutation that killed her father, the same mutation that killed her grandfather, the same mutation that's been passing through her family like a whisper for at least 200 years. Now, every morning, Isabella holds her hands in front of her face, watching for tremors, watching for the first sign that the clock has started ticking. She'll likely develop symptoms somewhere between 45 and 60. There's nothing medicine can offer her, nothing she can do except live and wait. Maria decided not to test. She prefers uncertainty. She prefers not knowing if every sleepless night is the beginning of the end. Both choices are impossible. Both choices are valid. There is no right answer to the question, do you want to know when you will die? Here's what I need you to understand. You'll spend roughly 1/3 of your life asleep. You probably complain about it. Not enough sleep, waking up tired, wishing you could function on less. Tonight, when you lie in bed, when you feel your eyelids getting heavy, when your thoughts start to blur and drift, that's your thalamus working perfectly. That is millions of proteins folding exactly the way they're supposed to. You take it for granted, the surrender into sleep, the assumption that your brain will carry you into the dark and bring you back in the morning. For 40 known families scattered across the world, that assumption is a lie. Their proteins fold wrong, their thalamus fails, and one night they close their eyes and realize they will never truly sleep again. Michael Vianello's nightmare was not what he saw when he slept. His nightmare was never sleeping at all. The disease has no cure, but it does have a registry. If you have 2 or more relatives who died of diagnosed or mysterious neurological decline, if there is a pattern in your family of people going crazy and dying in their 50s, you can request genetic testing. If you test positive, you become part of a small, terrible community of people living under the same shadow. Some donate their brains for research, some join the few observational studies that exist, some spend their remaining healthy years documenting everything for the scientists who might one day crack this code. There is no treatment yet, but there are researchers trying, attempting to develop drugs that stabilize protein folding, exploring gene therapy that might correct the mutation before symptoms begin. The science is decades away from a cure, maybe decades away from anything. But Michael Vianello's brain is now in a lab somewhere, still teaching doctors, still contributing to a fight he could not win. This is the cruelest disease I have ever researched. Most diseases take your body. This one takes your rest. It keeps you awake while everything else falls apart. When you go to bed tonight, you'll probably fall asleep in 15 minutes, maybe 30. You might toss and turn, you might check your phone, you might think about work. Eventually, the thalamus will dim the lights. The noise will fade. You will slip away without even noticing. Be grateful. Be grateful your brain remembers how to close the door. This is Diagnosis Glitch. I'll see you in the next waiting room.